Welcome to another product knowledge video. Today's video is all about antique and classic automobile insurance. Unusual, yeah, but interesting. It's going to be presented by Robert Wallace. Bob Wallace, there on the right, is the president of J.C. Taylor Insurance. They're very well known for this kind of insurance and have been for many years. I'm the presenter over there. I'm George. At any rate, that's not important, but what is important is to Bob to tell us about collector car insurance. Bob, my first question to you is this. What's the purpose? Why do we have collector car insurance?
Well, George, first, just want to thank you for the opportunity to go over a little bit about the collector car insurance program that we have, and
Sure.
let's see if we can start out with one of the purposes of the program, and that was started about 50 years ago.
Wow.
One of the large antique automobile clubs came to J.C. Taylor, and they wanted something special. They wanted something that would take care of their cars from an insurance standpoint, and they were seeking a product that would allow for the limited use of their automobiles, also a product that would be honoring the special values that their cars had, and most importantly, they were looking for, as most insureds are looking for, a reasonable premium on this. So subsequently, we put together a policy for them, and it's developed over the years. We've even added, recently we've added the hot rods and the modifieds to the program.
That's fascinating.
So that's pretty much where the where this hobby thing has gone.
You've been in it every step of the way then, huh?
Yeah, pretty much. Not on the initial phase of it, but came in pretty soon thereafter.
Well, I was thinking at least your firm has. Yeah, you're too young for that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, right. What are the types of vehicles? What do you use? What are the types of these vehicles?
Well, types of vehicles are pretty broad. We have muscle cars. We have vintage motorcycles. We've got different types of trucks, mostly small trucks such as delivery trucks. We've got military vehicles, Jeeps, and vehicles of that nature out there. We've also got all kinds of antique and classic cars such as convertibles and woody wagons. And
what's that? What's a muscle car? Excuse me for interrupting. What's a muscle car? I don't know.
Yeah, going back to the muscle car, probably the most notorious muscle car would be the GTO, if you remember that one. And that was back in the late 60s and 70s. They put a lot of extra horsepower into those babies, and that's why they called them muscle cars.
Oh,
so there's a whole range of different types of muscle cars that are available during that era.
I love that picture over there. Oh, that red one. That's not a muscle car, though, I'm sure.
No. That's the red one is a 1920 Model T.
Oh my goodness.
Farm wagon pickup truck. So that's something that we that was my first vehicle actually that I purchased.
Oh my gosh!
I purchased it from one of our own employees actually.
Oh, that was a good buy.
Now that vehicle had been restored by a fellow by the name of George Norton back in the late 1950s. Started by taking everything apart, redoing everything in his basement. He actually did it himself over the course of probably a year and a half. So quite an experience for him.
Well, when you're insuring a car, what are you looking for? What are the underwriting requirements? I mean, how am I going to qualify my car with you? Okay.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important, George. We want to make sure that first of all that the vehicle is a qualified vehicle, and of course we're looking for a year, make, and value on that particular aspect of it. And the second thing that we're really interested in is how's the car being used, and we expect that the car would be used for hobby purposes and not for everyday use. And of course, you know, we do allow for an occasional nice day drive.
What's that mean? What's that mean?
Well, everybody needs to exercise their vehicle, and usually, you know, a lot of folks like to go out on a Sunday morning when nobody's around with their car, so so they have an open road to deal with, and just enjoy their vehicle during that time. So
You just
we're
want to know
happy
if
with
you want to know if it works, don't you? You want to know if it works.
Well, I want to know that it works, and also the customers want to keep it going. They want to keep it, functioning. The best thing you can do for an antique car is to drive it instead of letting it just sit there.
Good point. All right, underwriting guidelines.
Yeah, I think there are some other underwriting guidelines that we worry about and we look for in looking at the exposure.
Mm-hmm.
One of them would be that the car needs to be in reasonably good condition and restored condition.
Uh-huh.
We don't want a couple of rust buckets in there. They have a tendency not to look very good, but they're also possible liability issues involved with something like that. So we worry about that.
Okay.
We like to have those cars in the garage because, as you can tell, the vehicles are really attractive, and if they're sitting out too much, they could become a quick beacon for somebody wanting to take a car.
All right.
And so we like to have them in enclosed lock garages. That's another underwriting guide that we use. Of course, we mentioned the use of the vehicle, and those hobby vehicles can be used for exhibitions and club activities and parades and
Got it.
Other public events that people are interested in. And then, of course, we, as most underwriters, we like to have somebody with a good driving record. So we look at that too.
I can imagine. How do you figure costs of insurance?
Yeah, George, the cost is something that is really attractive to the customer in that they're used to paying these very high premiums for the regular automobile insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And our liability, medical, uninsured motorist rates are very reasonable compared to the regular rates. And then what we do for physical damage, which most people know is comprehensive and collision coverages, we charge a rate per 100 on that, and they're very reasonable rates. And then we try to establish the value by defining what we call an agreed value.
I'd like to know more about agreed value. Let me look at that a minute. Oh, wait a minute. Oh, that's you. And what kind of car is? What is that? Tell me about that.
Oh, that car there, George. That's my favorite. That's a 1947 Plymouth Woody wagon. That vehicle was restored several years ago. It won the junior award, the senior award at the AACA, and went to the Grand Nationals and won the Grand Nationals.
Oh my gosh!
So it's a very decorated vehicle, as they say.
You're not going to tell me what it's worth, are you?
No, well,
I know. Let's just say it's worth
more. It's worth quite a bit there. Yeah, it's a pretty valuable vehicle. It's worth a lot to me. Let's put it that way.
Let's put it that way. You're going to keep the need for agreed value. Now you're telling about that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
How's that work?
Yeah, the agreed value is something that's unique to our particular policy and the type of antique policy and classic car policy and modified policy that we have, in that what we do is we try to come to an agreement with the customer as to what the value of that vehicle is, the unique value of that vehicle. And we'll use quite a few different resources to come up with that value. Then once we've done that, that's the value that we put on the policy. And if in the event of a total loss, customer has a claim and they have a total loss on that claim, the agreed value will be the amount that we pay on that claim. We don't get involved in depreciation or anything like that. That's already agreed that vehicle is going to be insured for $100,000. You're going to get a check for $100,000.
Oh, how about that? Right. And finally, how far can they drive, or can they? Is there a limit?
Yeah, the mileage limit is not something that we worry about. We do not have a mileage limit on our policy, And what we do, though, is, as we mentioned before, we do expect the vehicle to be used for hobby purposes. So as long as they're driving it for hobby purposes and so forth, they can drive it
as long as they want.
a number of miles. Yep.
Well, Robert, thank you very much. I appreciate your help. And for those of you who are looking and listening or just saw this short video here, remember, it's just an overview now. It's not intended to list all of the coverages covered, or maybe any of them, depending on what you need and want. Your agent's going to review that and decide with you which of those coverages or more would be included to fit your specific needs. So stay tuned, and we'll see you again for another product knowledge video.